So in the recent 2025 election, Labor narrowly held on to minority government. In the recent election, Labor just held a majority. Defying the odds, Peter Dutton has just become the Prime Minister. All right, I'll be honest. I had nothing prepared for this scenario. But to cut myself some slack, my track record actually has been pretty good so far. Over a year ago, I predicted that Trump would once again become the president and that Dutton would lose the leadership in the 2025 election. Even when he was sitting at odds like 10-1, I predicted that Andrew Hastie would be the next Liberal Party leader after Peter Dutton. And that was looking really good up until about a day ago. This podcast that you're about to listen to pretty much covers everything about the 2025 election, from Labor to Liberal to the Teals to the Greens to every other single minor party and probably your electorate as well. But before we get there, I actually have an offer for you. So about a year ago, I left you on a real cliffhanger with the video, What If Friendly Geordies Became Prime Minister? And since then, I have had a lot of requests for part 2. But to be really candid with you, it got me pretty much no views at all, made very little money, and got pretty much no new subscribers. And it is probably the video I have spent the most amount of time making. Now, that actually being said, you can make part 2 worthwhile for me. This right here is how many followers the podcast has on Spotify, and this right here is how many ratings the podcast has on Spotify. If the podcast were to reach 4,000 followers and 1,000 ratings by July the 1st, I can guarantee you that What If Friendly Geordies Became Prime Minister Part 2 will be the first video of the new financial year. So get the podcast to a friend, get it to your gran, pump it in the subreddits, do whatever you need to do, and I can guarantee you that I will give you part 2 of Friendly Geordies. Anyway, I'll let you go enjoy the podcast. I have included visuals to make it quite easy to watch.
I did get some photos from your Saturday night. It was
quite a Saturday night.
Looks like it was a very fun night. I think
you two were talking to each other without me.
I know we created a separate group chat. The context of this one is our friend Josh has recently gotten into the odds for the election, and I purely want to emphasize that this is an academic view of Sportsbet, not a endorsement of Sportsbet, but basically was asking, what's your tip for the election?
Let's not even say their name.
Yeah,
it's not. That's okay. We've said it. We've said
back the polling no more. He backs the betting odds. Is that what
Which is heavily derived from the polling, but yes.
No. Yeah.
Interesting. And then Josh felt like you two.
No,
Cam.
I didn't see that. So Josh was asking about our specific electorate, and I do say our now because I thought I was in Hughes.
Yes.
I am in Hughes. I live in a very clearly defined Hughes suburb, but I haven't changed my address on the electoral roll since I was living there in 2021. I was living in Kirrawee at the time. And I haven't changed it on the electoral roll since then. I've lived in 2 different suburbs since.
That's crazy.
And Kirrawee was Hughes last time, so I didn't even bother to check. I just rocked up and said my name, and I had the dreaded moment of like, you Mitchell with a double L? I'm like, oh no, what's gone wrong here?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, you're actually in Cook. I'm like, well, this is a bit embarrassing. I have an Australian history / political podcast. And then they ushered me to the side, and then it was a choice between 2 guys called Simon, which we'll come on to.
Oh my gosh, that wigged me out. I do have a story about that.
2 bald-headed men called Simon.
Yeah.
Anyway,
okay.
Josh got into was like, what are the odds? And so I sent him a screenshot of Cook being $1.50 to go for the Liberals. And
Wow.
And I've spoken before with Ben at length about this, and so I sent him a message the night before, just being like, enjoy contributing to democracy tomorrow, boys. And then
I see.
You sent us
ensued.
alongside some other great odds that we were seeing, like you could bet on whether they were going to mention Magic Round in their victory speeches.
Yes.
There was all sorts of things that like crazy that people are go, yeah, I'm gonna. That's worth my $20.
When did you come in?
When Cam said
Pointing to Ben.
The group chat, like I was in the group chat with Josh and Cam when they started
about
discussing
the political betting odds.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay.
Well, I guess not in
we can add you if you want. If we want to.
Not in the preliminary runs, I don't think, but clearly it spilled out. Cam clearly thought this is worth me seeing.
This is
okay. Cool.
Yeah. Position as our friend is still
we're talking about the election. This is what we're doing this episode.
We are.
We're talking
a post-mortem.
The political and economic state of the world.
Bro!
Wow. So we're kind of turned into a news podcast rather than a history podcast.
This is
history.
My mother-in-law turned to me on election night and was like, well, Dutton's fair game to go for a history podcast now. And so, no, but like we're going to take a little bit of a different angle than like, we're not going to go, the Liberal Party needs to really court the female vote in women aged 18 to 34.
That was pretty good.
Sorry, I often actually use that voice to represent just people I find annoying in life. But yeah, women aged 34 who live in Yarrawarra but don't eat from Pizza League, they need to court that vote in Hughes. No, I basically, if you just start listening to the podcast, be like, I've listened to everything. I've done ABC, I've done Sky News, I've done it all. We're going to try and take you into some different spots, and we're not just going to go, do you reckon Trump had an impact on the election?
Okay. Well, I look forward to it.
Some real stories on the ground. That's what we're working with.
Yeah. As we've alluded to, I don't think we've actually said, Ben and I were at a wedding, and
That's why our Saturday night was fun.
I followed no coverage at all.
Okay, Jake was fully present with the festivities.
Yes, yeah. I think there were a few tables at the wedding that were quite invested. I was not on those tables, and the people around me were, that was not the chat. That was the chat was more like, oh, I didn't really know who to vote. Like, I didn't really care.
Were you near PY? Were you on the same table?
It was sort of like the kind of the bench sort of table, like the long ones.
Yeah.
And I was further down.
Hogwarts.
There were moments where we would
like
have
locked
a quick
eyes,
throughout our entree and main. But it wasn't really until we hit the dance floor and like some results really started to come through that as a few were brought to my attention. I don't know if we want to.
Yeah, you would have been following the coverage quite closely, I imagine. Ken?
Yeah. No, I had multiple channels going at once. My wife very kindly agreed to be on duty for our child. Pretty much all from 5 o'clock on Saturday onwards to the rest of it. And like bedtime is a big routine. Like that's normally what I try and do with him. So she very kindly let me flourish to watch it with my mother and father-in-law while she hung out with our child.
So baby wasn't interested in the result, knowing that it was shaping his future.
I think he's just very much one step at a time. He knows that his campaign is primarily going to be around his year 6 school captain run.
Sure.
Not to toot my own son's horn, but he's got a calm head on his shoulders at 18 months old. Just got real grounded perspective. Just one election at a time, and so he's focused on really courting the handball vote at school. So no,
Do you think he's got the library vote?
No, I think that's where he's going to struggle. I think he's just not going to have that natural appeal. I think he'll have common man appeal, but I don't know if he'll have.
He'll have the oval vote for sure.
He might be considered a bit of an intellectual lightweight right now. So, okay, so a lot to unpack. If I were to ask you just one highlight reaction from the wedding, what was the moment where you were like, whoa?
Well, it was a very clear one for me. It was on the dance floor, and someone who I wasn't aware was so kind of politically engaged came up very excitedly, and she's like, Hughes has gone to Labor. Like it was massive. And I was already just processing the shock of that. Like I didn't know you had. That kind of thing, let alone, wow, Hughes has gone to Labor.
I mean, like as long as one's like, if I'm not mistaken, she's a doctor.
Yes.
So it could go two ways. Could go like, got to protect that 401k, or the full join the resistance against Dutton as health minister back when he was health minister in the previous government.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
I don't know for whatever reason, but it was like, wow, yeah, that was, and I felt like it was nice. It was nice for once to feel like we were, even though it wasn't our electorate, we were kind of close.
Yeah.
We're in the state adjacent to Georgia or something.
New Zealand won the Rugby World Cup.
Yeah. It felt like we were part of something there.
Yeah, well, I'll open that present first. So if you've come for the full coverage, we are going to start hyper-specific with the electorate that we often record from, though less so more recently. I have a little bit of inside news on the guy. So I'll start with 2022. The candidate was Riley Campbell. Riley Campbell is a friend of the podcast. He has been very supportive.
Oh, yeah.
And we love Riley Campbell.
Good on you.
For whatever reason, I haven't chatted to him recently. Don't know if he sought pre-selection or if he just kind of let that one pass and was like, well, like everyone's attitude was 2022 was the chance that Hughes could change because you had the Craig Kelly debacle.
Sure. Yeah.
And it was like UAP, Craig Kelly, Jenny Ware for the Liberals, Georgia Steele, if you remember those orange posters everywhere.
Yep.
and then Labor. And Labor had a positive swing. I think Riley did a good campaign in like the 6 weeks that he had or whatever, but it didn't come close to taking Hughes off of the Liberals, even when the Liberals had a bad election. So I don't know if he's just gone, well, what I do know from the inside is that it was just a flag waving exercise, and the person who won, David Moncrief, would not have at all expected to win. And I do wonder, I don't know if he's got like a wife or anything, but you would imagine the conversation would go, look, babe, don't worry. It's just, I'm just taking this one for the team. His background is in like policy advisor for the Labor Party. So he's very much just been like a coach, so to speak.
Yeah, okay.
And they're like, okay, we just need to fill one extra to fill in for our 5-a-side team. And now he's off to Canberra for 3 years.
Yeah.
Really?
He, like,
Is that true?
what, that he didn't expect to win?
Maybe his aspiration was actually to.
Well, maybe eventually, but not right
Wasn't
now.
expected. All right, for sure.
Yeah, so he's stood in this seat again. There wasn't that, like. Did you see a David Moncrief sign anywhere in your journey across the Shire?
No, I can't.
Did you know his name? Like, did you know his name until? Yeah, like whereas you might have known Georgia Steele before 2022 because her orange signs. I know you're at other end of the Shire.
Yeah.
But you would have seen her signs everywhere.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Labor gave the guy no funds at all because they're like, what's the point? We're not going to win this electorate.
Yeah.
And they targeted on all their other battleground seats, so to speak.
Yeah.
And he won comfortably.
That's interesting, isn't it?
Fascinating. So for the first time in my life, I live, though the electoral roll does need to be updated to reflect this. I do live in a state and federal Labor seat. My last club that I played soccer for was Cronulla RSL, and I'm in Labor-held territory. We're going to be in our postmortem with the Liberal Party and a bit of the fallout from those guys.
Yep.
Those guys. Did you feel bad for Peter Dutton at all? I just want to put that.
I mean,
I feel bad.
I mean, by the sounds of it.
it is tough. Yeah, sort of. It's kind of talk about kicking a man while he's down, right?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
he's lost, and then not long after it trickles through that he personally has lost. So, yeah, tough.
I think I usually try to take quite a partisan. Is that the right word?
Non-partisan?
Non-partisan.
Depends on what you're about to say.
Yeah.
Non-partisan view to politics.
Okay.
they're opposite words. I was like, you gotta show us what that means.
Yeah. We'll tell
It's
you
like
which
keep
one's
it
great.
close. Keep it close to the chest. Don't don't get too emotional about it.
Okay. He's probably non-partisan.
That leans towards non-partisan, but yeah.
Yeah, but like here I am on a podcast talking about how much the Liberals cooked it.
But like, just take your politics.
You can do that objectively.
Take your politics out of it.
Sure. Did I feel bad for Peter Dutton?
Peter Dutton the man, Jake, not Peter Dutton the politician.
Pete.
Maybe that was
Dutty.
maybe like a level of empathy. Really?
I like to see people be redundant. We don't like to see people lose their jobs.
Yeah.
I wonder if it came as a shock to him. Should have seen it coming. Maybe.
Yeah.
Should have made better decisions.
So I don't think, my biggest thing is I don't think he's that upset. He would have known he was going to lose the election. The polling was trending that way towards the end.
But how
Probably
bad
didn't expect to lose his seat, but his seat has been marginal every time. So
losing his seat, that was just kind of funny. That was
that's the bit I was going to go.
That didn't move you whatsoever.
well when that came through, I was like, oh my gosh,
Yeah. It happened to John Howard when
That is
he was Prime Minister
embarrassing.
rather than
Yeah.
opposition leader.
But so I guess every 3 years he's kind of wearing his heart on his sleeve a little bit.
Yeah, and I think if it was going to be amplified, it was going to be this time because it's directly a referendum on Peter Dutton.
Yeah.
Because you're not voting for it's like when we got to vote directly for Scott Morrison, not for Scott Morrison, if we wanted to for Scott Morrison. But anyway, the thing that I feel really bad about Peter Dutton is because it's such a seismic defeat, it's going to go down in history probably as Liberal Party's it's their worst defeat so far since Menzies rebranded the party in the 40s.
Yep.
And it will probably be their worst defeat for a long time because their base is so low that you can only build upwards from here.
Yep.
And he's just got to carry that around as the guy. I didn't
I don't know. They shouldn't have put him as leader then, right?
I
feel like I could have seen this coming.
really okay. So your finger might be a bit more on the pulse than me. I like if you take politics out of it and just take the policies out of it and just view it from a purely Machiavellian strategic point of view.
Yeah.
I thought he was good. Like, I genuinely thought, I thought he was a pretty clear communicator. I thought he came across as intelligent. Like, I know he's got that kind of cop background, and people wouldn't say he's like a Malcolm Turnbull level intellect, but he like doesn't parade it around. And I think if they put those two head to head, I reckon Peter Dutton might be able to match Turnbull on the intellectual department.
Yeah.
Obviously the AFL thing didn't help. That was a big blow. Like, generally, like, people are talking.
My thinking like the whole time was he was the one that ousted Turnbull, right?
Yes, that is true.
And then the party was like, oh my gosh, this guy can't be leader.
Yeah.
Morrison.
That is very true. Well,
so my thinking the whole time has been like, oh, he's really sort of, I don't know, third best. He kind of, even though he organized this coup against Turnbull, he wasn't really ever considered to be the leader then. And it seemed like it was only by other people falling that is what put him in charge. Heavy is the head.
Which is, as a side point, Scott Morrison actually, like, it looks like Scott Morrison was Steve Bradbury as everyone fell in front of him.
Yeah.
He actually organised it to happen. Like, Scott Morrison would be the player that gets to the final in Survivor, but then can't persuade the jury to vote for him. A separate topic.
Sure.
The guy is he's really intelligent at manoeuvring how to rise up and gain power within a position, not as good as persuading the nation.
Yeah.
Although he did a really good job in
It
2019.
seemed like when it's just like, oh, he's a nice guy and better than Dutton. Dutton, I don't know. I feel like Dutton had his persona as an evil guy. Maybe I think probably to do with his like
Alopecia.
thoughts on immigration. Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
His war on working from home. That's evil.
So, okay, we'll come on to that bit. So the overarching consensus is that Peter Dutton lost the campaign for the Liberals.
Yeah.
We're purely speculating here. We don't know the reasons why, and we just basically...
Maybe the Timu Trump line as well didn't help.
But, like, okay, here's the thing. I'm a Labour inclined person, but, like, the guy's not Trump. Like, let's be...
But do you not think it was the same as what happened in Canada, right? With just the Trump association going from
totally. That's
a good thing to a bad thing in like 6 months.
Yeah. Well, so that's on that. So people are going, it's the tariffs, and then it's the fact that he's just a right-wing politician.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look, if you get an American and you're like, hey, this was Peter Dutton's campaign versus this is Trump's campaign, they'd be like, who's that woke snowflake? Like, I think, like, by comparison, and the fact, like, you look at he conceded at like 9:30, and he was basically said,
the Prem was about to start. That's the Aston Villa game.
And obviously, every concession speech, your goal is not to come across as a dick in a concession speech.
Yeah.
But he actually went above the minimum threshold there. I didn't know it was particularly Trumpian. Anyway, so everyone's like,
there was a lot of mad respect in those speeches. I think there was
respect.
I
Mad respect.
definitely saw a couple of LinkedIn posts in the days after reflecting on a nation built on respect.
Did you enjoy Albo channeling a high school teacher when they start to boo? He's like,
Yeah.
no,
we
no.
Australia, we show respect.
The hand gestures and everything.
Yeah.
So everyone's talking.
Knives out in the build up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's white line fever, Jake.
Sure.
Final whistle blows.
Which I think, like, it does annoy me when people conflate a robust debate for this is so uncivil. It's like, no, actually, this is completely civil. They just know how to go at it, and then as soon as the full-time whistle ends in Parliament, they're off to the pub, and they're the uni party conspiring to tax you or whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't know, a lot of people have been talking about the fact that Dutton was associated as being like Trump, and if you look at the Dutton campaign, it was objectively terrible. Like, everyone in the Liberal Party will say that as well. So week one was him backflipping on working from home. He had the AFL thing where he didn't know what to do. They hadn't costed a whole bunch of their policies, and they were very slow to announce what policy they had. And it's like, what the heck? You could have seen this coming.
Yeah.
Like, Albo called the election, I think, 2 weeks before the latest he could have possibly called it. Everyone's wondering, like, what the heck's going on? I have heard a little bit of inside goss as to what went wrong. And I think it's a little bit, I don't think it's as simple as Dutton dumb.
This would be good.
I would say Peter Dutton is a far more intelligent man than I am. And so 3 guys that are sitting in what I have come to I'm pretty confident on this. So number one, a lot of the Libs, and this probably goes to your theory that the Libs didn't like him, a lot of the Libs were leaking on him. and there was a lot of disgruntlement that was kind of a lot of leaks to journalists that they could use against Dutton, which presented an appearance of disorganization. What was much worse, though, was obviously they don't, like, Peter Dutton doesn't run his own campaign. They don't go to him, what do you reckon, like A4, A3, Comic Sans? Like, obviously he doesn't do any of that. They use consultants to do all of this, and they hire firms. The firm was hired in, if I'm not mistaken, November or December of 2024. And based off the time of when they were hired, what do you think their preparation strategy was?
Trump, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so where the Trump stuff comes into it is the consultants prepared a Trump-style campaign. And it's going to be a grievance campaign against Peter Dutton, where, as against Albanese. You might have heard the line, "Are you better off than what you were 3 years ago?"
Yeah.
Referring to cost of living.
Yeah.
Again, that's like going in COVID, are you better off than what you were in 2017 when Scott Morrison was... but you kind of had that line. It was meant to be a Joe Biden bad, Albo bad, maybe sprinkle a bit of culture wars in there. That's the plan. And they're ready to go with that.
Yeah.
And then Trump, in like 2 weeks, loses all of his popularity in Australia.
Yeah.
They have to throw that out the door and start a whole new campaign from scratch.
Yeah. But even still, I feel like, and I kind of feel somewhat underqualified to talk about this, but it just doesn't make sense. I feel like the people in Australia that are Trump aligned, really, they're just gonna go for the further right wing parties. Whereas the people that are maybe, I don't know, don't like Trump, they're more likely to flip the other way than to go further down.
Yeah.
You see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. I think so. The goal is to try and energize the voting base. So you also got to remember the fact that they won the voice referendum on that style of campaign. So that would have given them a whole bunch of confidence to go, right, culture war, energize that base. We were so despondent after 2022. We get people excited to have a Liberal Party come back. And Abbott ran a very negative campaign, but very successful conservative negative campaign in 2013. And so I thought maybe this could energize the voter base again. But yeah, it clearly didn't work, and they were just left completely without a strategy. And if you look at Peter Dutton's history, to go like, oh, this guy's the new Malcolm Turnbull is never going to work. Like, kind of have to lean into what your perception is. Yeah, so really, really bad night for Liberal Party.
He had some stuff in his past, right, that just people were never going to sort of overcome.
Yeah, and he's
like the childcare centres. That was not a good look.
His time as Home Affairs Minister, his time as Immigration Minister, his time as Health Minister, his time as the Queensland cop. Lots. He was a Queensland cop in the Joe Bjelke-Peterson era, where the cops weren't exactly seen as most honourable. Obviously, there were plenty of honourable policemen in it, but as an institution, very politicised and very corrupted in many ways. Anyway, these are all the seats that the Liberal Party has lost as of now. Deakin, Leichhardt, which isn't Sydney Leichhardt, it's North Queensland.
I don't know where any of these places are.
Sturt, Moore, Bennelong, Ford, Bonner, Bass, Braddon, Banks, Dixon, Petrie, Hughes.
Do you know where these places are?
I know where some of them are.
Okay. Say that's like people that really know the electorate's names and the actual area. That's some good knowledge. Some good ball knowledge.
So basically, if you look at these, some of the only one.
I've seen a map though.
Yeah, the only one that really Labor would have expected to definitely guaranteed pick up was Leichhardt. Again, for half of these, they just didn't even think they were a chance. Even ones like Hughes, of course. But it was a total landslide towards...
But Leichhardt's not Leichhardt.
That's North Queensland. It's Cape York.
Random.
Yeah. The really interesting one was so Liberals lost those ones. The Nationals did a lot better, but they did lose one seat. Penguin might be less familiar. Ben might be more familiar. Calais.
Not familiar.
Orange.
Yeah, I'm familiar. As in the seat that we discussed in that.
So Andrew G.
Who
defected from the Nationals Party over the Voice because the Nationals brand was so damaged after the Greyhound by-election in 2016 and then the 2019 New South Wales election. I said it on the podcast that I didn't think it was a completely sincere defection and that it was a very clever political strategy to use that as an opportunity to disassociate himself from a sinking ship, which are those Southern Basin, Murray-Darling seats that suffer from floodplain harvesting, whereas the Nationals back northern seats benefit from floodplain harvesting. Anyway, Andrew G held onto his seat as an independent, and the Nationals lost. So that's technically now a flip towards the independents there. Look, it's pretty grim. Menzies is going to be a likely loss to the Labor Party. Bullwinkle, which was this new one that was set up for the first time, could go either way. It's looking 50-50 at this point. The primary votes, that's putting them one. An extra 3.6% of them voted for Liberal last time than they did this time. And that wasn't a good election for the Liberals last time. Scott Morrison picked up, 58 seats when you need 76 to govern. So it's been an absolute crisis for the Liberal Party. In Peter Dutton's own seat, there was a 7.5% swing against him. And the Labor Party with Ali France is now in. Not that really means anything for what we're going for here. The Liberal Party's been decimated, and they're going to get a seat count in the 40s. You need 76 to govern. Like, it's absolute chaos. And so the question, this kind of leans back to maybe Pay West's point that I was putting before. If Smith's chips declines in its stock and its value goes down completely, is there strategy to lean into original flavored chips, or is there strategy to have a bit more flavor on the chip?
I'm glad we used an analogy there because I wouldn't have been able to get it up. Well, yeah, maybe it's time for a change. Maybe it's time for some soul searching. Some what do we really stand for as the Liberal National Party? You know? Who are we? I reckon there's surely got to be some butcher's paper being laid down on office floors somewhere. some blue sky thinking.
There are some positive results. So there actually was a point to that analogy. So original flavored chips run a moderate campaign and be more of a Malcolm Turnbull style Liberal. Flavor on the chip means be more of a Tony Abbott and have chicken flavor. So you watch them.
I think I misunderstood it.
Yeah.
So
I'm with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you
I'm more
move
of a salt and vinegar guy? Go for some chips
my
right
consultancy
now.
fee is $200,000. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, the Liberal Party feuding right now as to the direction that they go.
Yeah.
So after ScoMo, Dutton was like, "Nope, keep it to the right." Initially, he flirted with being in the centre, and he kind of was like, "Well, maybe we could get some of those Teal seats back." And then they had a really bad by-election in 2023, and then he was like, the 3 days after the by-election result, he was like, "Yeah, we're going to go no on the Voice, and we're just going to be a Conservative Party and try and campaign on that." A couple of people who might be the next leader. These names might not mean anything to you.
Well, it would depend. What they do will depend on the leader, right? And their sort of values, beliefs.
But the leader getting elected will be a reflection of what
The party.
what the party still thinks.
Sure.
Don't tell me. Angus Taylor.
Gussie.
There's
I like him
there's
already.
the woman. What's Susan Boyle. Not Susan Boyle.
Wild card entry.
I dreamed a dream. No, Susan Lee.
Yes.
And I don't know the third one.
So
I saw one Instagram post from the Daily Oz and it had the picture of the three of them, and that's how I got that information.
Cool. So we got Angus
What are the
Taylor,
odds?
Susan Lee, Dan Tian, and a now guy called Tim Wilson. Originally there was five, and this fifth one was
Tim Wilson, it was his seat in doubt up until...
big time. So he only came back. So he was out of Parliament this last go because he lost it to Teal, Zoe Daniel, and Goldstein, and so he was only on that. Okay, I'll talk Tim Wilson right now. So Zoe Daniel, Goldstein, she announces victory on Saturday night. So that's the Teal candidate. And it's considered form to wait for a concession speech before doing a celebration. But Tim Wilson didn't give a concession speech. So it's considered pretty poor form on Zoe Daniel's part to then go, right, I'm going to go have a celebration because the concession speech hasn't come yet. So she's unilaterally decided that this is unwinnable for Tim Wilson.
And then she's lost.
Before we even get there, the whole crowd is singing Titanium, and she's like doing these ones, like badly lip syncing to
Oh my goodness.
Titanium. And then Tim Wilson's like, I'm not conceding. So Teal's really angry that Tim Wilson's not conceding.
If he did concede, would that mean...
No, you can undo it. Concession's got nothing. Yeah. It's like, like, because when Al Gore undid his concessions to George Bush.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you imagine? No, takes his backsies.
Stop the count.
A couple of days, I think it was even last night, Tim Wilson got announced as the winner of Goldstein.
Is she dumb? Is she...
I think Titanium will play on the radio one time. In the next
like
few
all
years.
that hard work.
She'll hang her head in her hands.
Yeah. Surely you're just like so anxious that you're like, oh, I can't I don't know. I don't believe in karma, but you can't bite the bullet too early.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, she did the titanium bullet, and she's lost her seat.
That is embarrassing.
Yeah, that's not a good look.
A little bit on Tim Wilson. All I'm going to say is Google Prayer Room Spark Helmore if you want more information on him. The rest of it is not savory enough to put on this podcast.
Yes, he had a little naughty, didn't he?
Yes, allegedly.
Yeah.
So yeah, we just got,
Allegedly cover our bases
I really
there.
can't say much more because otherwise legally we could be in trouble. So I'm just going to
really?
leave that tab open. So Tim Wilson's back, and people are saying he could be the leader of the Liberal Party, which again, Steve Rabbit just waltz in and take the leadership. The guy that I was backing was a guy called Andrew Hastie.
That's certainly, you could run a good campaign with that.
Yeah. I mean, Zoe Daniel probably needed a name like that after.
Yeah, don't be hasty. Yeah, right.
WA guy, war hero from Afghanistan, and he came out of the David McBride affair looking very squeaky clean. He followed procedure, and he encouraged witnesses to testify against Benjamin Robert Smith.
How are you, Dave?
Oh, yeah.
You'll be listening.
I mean, if they do podcasts in prison, I really hope that they'll allow us to go. Anyway,
That'd be something, wouldn't it?
was his dog's
Podcast
name
from
again?
prison.
so
Jake!
technical difficulties. No, we love David McBride. Very good friend of the pod. Check out the David McBride podcast if you haven't listened already. So you've got Tim Wilson. Andrew Hastie pulled out last night or the night before. So Andrew Hastie, he went from $10 a week ago, and I did a Patreon video where I said that's going to be the next Liberal leader. He then dropped to be the favourite at $2.20.
Do you think they dropped as a result of your video?
Well, that's the thing. I sent a message. Like Patreon podcast group chat was very active, and join as a free member. You can join it. I asked, "Who's the mole?" And no one has confessed.
Oh,
so far.
yeah, wow.
But yeah, I had my Zoe Daniel moment, and I was like, "I'm a political genius. I've called this. I've called this." And then he pulled out. Probably
That
good.
must feel good.
Well, it felt good
until
I had my Zoe Daniel moment.
Oh, okay.
He look, I think he's made a smart move. I think he's gone, look, opposition leaders rarely, so obviously Liberal Party are in a very unlikely position to win the 2028 election. Opposition leaders rarely last longer than a 3-year cycle. Tony Abbott was 2009 to 2013. That's probably the longest successful in recent memory. Bill Shorten, 6 years, didn't win. And yeah, you go back to...
Heart goes out to Bill.
Yeah. you keep going back and you find that pattern pretty similar. So I think Hastie's gone, if I want to be Prime Minister, I shouldn't be opposition leader right now. And he's just gone, not interested. Susan Ley, Dan Tehan, not too much to say about them. What I will say, Angus Taylor, a bit more Shire, local chat here. He's not from the Shire, he's from like Camden or something. But
All right.
do you know who Clover Moore is?
Yeah, Mayor of Sydney.
Very good. So Clover Moore basically called out the old Liberal government for not doing enough on climate change. And Angus Taylor then basically showed the hours that she had flown and gone, wow, bit rich, right?
Why does the Mayor of Sydney need to go anywhere?
She has it all right here. She's got IMAX.
Hey, she's fighting for us. She's negotiating with. Anyway, so he's gone, look at all the way Tracy travelled. But you're exactly right, Jake. She hasn't. She's the Mayor of Sydney. This document is just BS. Like, there's nothing.
Made it up.
So basically, from there, Clover Moore has gone to.
How would she keep track of that?
She's gone, okay, here's the actual data where you can see all the government records of my work-related travel. I haven't done any of that. She then goes to prosecute criminal charges for fraud. Because firstly, he's defamed her. And then secondly, he has produced this fraudulent document.
What a silly thing to do.
Anyway, so it gets crazy, right? So he was one of Scott Morrison's ministers at the time. And Scott Morrison... he would have been within his rights to stand him down until the investigation's finished.
Maybe it was actually Scott Morrison's flights that he used. Like,
But we've all been
who
there.
created it? Like, did he go to
Moore
someone?
and Morrison would have been next to each other on the...
Yeah, like, did he go to someone like, hey, can you just like fake a couple flight plans for me?
They just pulled the Taylor Swift ones.
Yeah.
Look at her go.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. He's like, well, I've been given a fraudulent thing. And she's like, what do you mean you've been given? He's like, well, I got it from your website. And she's like, no, you didn't. We have the records. Never was this downloaded from our website. So anyway, she goes, I'm pressing charges. She goes to New South Wales Police. Now, this is a very high profile criminal case, right? Because it's involving a senior member of Scott Morrison's government. The New South Wales Police Commissioner knew Scott Morrison quite well. Mick Fuller.
Still Mick Fuller. Yeah, lived in Lillipilly.
Yeah,
Probably
yeah.
Like less than a
Oh,
kilometre.
how
from
long ago?
ScoMo's
how long
house.
ago was this?
Not less than a kilometer. They were neighbors.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, your local knowledge is really good.
Yeah.
They were next door neighbors. The running. So basically,
I knew that because I remember there was sometimes a heavier police presence along. I think is it Parthenia Street?
yes,
Sorry,
Parthenia Road, I think. But
No, go on.
doxed. Because I think he knew that people would come flying through that street to get out to Lillipilly.
Yeah.
So, there was every now and again a speed gun when there otherwise wouldn't be on a suburban street like that.
and so
When was this?
2019.
Okay, so yeah, sure.
So basically, what happened was Mick Fuller, because it's such a high profile thing, he more or less signs off on whether it goes ahead or not because it's involving police resources and it's
Yeah.
it's a very politicized event.
Yep.
So anyway, Scott Morrison gets asked about this whole thing and he gets asked about Mick Fuller. And ScoMo on radio is like, oh, top bloke, that Mick Fuller, top bloke. You know what? We used to get our bins for each other. Like sometimes he'd be too lazy to bring his bin in, so I'd just bring his bin in for him. Like top bloke. It's like, okay, conflict of interest here. He is responsible for potentially investigating one of your senior cabinet members.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Anyway, what happened was the documents were accessed in Canberra, so it's not New South Wales Police jurisdiction. So then goes to the AFP police.
Yep.
AFP police. Yeah. Goes to AFP. The AFP are directly funded by the Commonwealth. They are known to be quite a political branch at this point. They did the raid on the ABC when they were critical of Liberal Party and so forth. So they do their investigation and they find that Angus Taylor, there was no proof that Angus Taylor committed fraud. It's like, okay, cool. By the way, if you want the full video, Knights in Shining Llama, we've referenced him before. He has an amazing honestly, it's so good. A great half an hour video that you should definitely watch. So Angus Taylor's getting, they're doing the investigation. As we later find out in the investigation, to discern whether Angus Taylor did commit fraud or not, did they interview Clovermore or Angus Taylor? No. And then okay, you think for an investigation that might be a helpful starting point.
Yeah.
And so they were then asked about it later on, and they're like, oh, it just wasn't a good use of police resources. We could be out there stopping the baddies. It's like, a government minister committing fraud to slam a political opponent is actually, we probably don't want them doing that. Just putting that out there.
Baddie behavior.
And so anyway, my main concern about Angus Taylor being the leader, people are like, so the main criticism of him is that he's lazy.
Okay, just doesn't have that dog in him.
Yeah. The other one is that he actively tried to undermine Peter Dutton and intentionally did a bad job as treasurer to undermine Peter Dutton. The third one is just that he's too conservative. But for one of me, that's far more concerning is A, that he's very possibly committed fraud, but B, he's done it in such a, it's such an amateur attempt at, that's what's more concerning. Like, if you're the prime minister, if he ends up becoming prime minister and is dealing with, I don't know, Xi Jinping or whatever at the negotiating table, that guy's going to be sloppy as. I don't want.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not looking too promising for who the next Liberal Party leader is going to be, in terms of not from a political point of view, just from a strategic who could feasibly drag them into a new era with a bit of gusto. I am still hopeful that a guy I know will put his hat in the ring. He has been involved in the Young Liberals before. I think he's a top bloke. He does have electoral success. He managed to completely absorb the entirety of the nerd vote in the Barony Bay Public School 2009 school captain elections. And this was an era where the jocks won everything. Only the jocks got to be prefect or school captain. He was well respected but low status. And he just did this amazing Scooby-Doo campaign and absorbed the entirety. Everyone was making themselves like Andrew Johns or whatever on the posters. He was stuff that I'm Fred from the Scooby-Doo gang, and just absorbed this massive vote and got himself into becoming vice captain. And I think, I'm not going to say his name, I'm not going to dox him, but I think the party needs him, mate. If you're listening, you know who you are.
Scooby-Doo vice captain.
Anyway, that's the Liberal Party. Lots to process for them. As you said, a lot of soul searching. I will say this: they are flirting with the idea of trying to become. Well, the main consensus is that you keep hearing is that the Liberal Party needs to incorporate more women. You might have heard that. Basically they've got a female problem, is what they're saying. The Labor Party has gender quotas, so 40 female, 40 men, 20 miscellaneous.
Yep.
And so the criticism against that is that it's not very meritocratic, because we've had cases before where Ed Hughes I think it was Ed Husick, I can't remember if it exactly was him, had to be ousted from cabinet because their quota was out of balance now, and they had to bring in Christina Keneally instead.
Yeah.
I think it's a big mistake if Liberal Party goes ahead and does that. I think take whatever you think of quotas out of the equation from an optical point of view. The Liberal Party's brand is that they're meritocratic. I think at the core, that...
Have a go, get a go.
Yeah, exactly. Their success, and even with the Voice found success because they made the argument that this was unmeritocratic, that there was a group that got special preferential treatment. The flag stuff doesn't work. Like, I'm not going to do it in front of Aboriginal flag. That doesn't work because there's no meritocratic element to it at all. It's just like, do you like blue or do you like... Whereas the Voice is successful because they could at least frame it as a way that it was meritocratic. I think if they're going to have any success moving forward, I think they need to really hone in on we're a meritocracy party. And for 3 years, they're probably not going to make much progress, but they might seem like a viable alternative government, and then they'll be able to pounce later on when the Labor Party missteps. So anyway, if you're listening, I can do some free consultancy work for your Liberal Party, and I can tell you, don't do gender quotas. It's not going to... It's like, and again, and who actually goes, yay, they put a woman in, I've forgotten the last 20 years, right? Like, come on.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I don't. That's actually a difficult job to get in the mind of an Australian voter. Like everyone's so unique. Sorry,
I just think it
For
speaks to the beauty of Australia that we're just surrounded by such diverse and interesting individuals.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like there's a large majority of the country that's just like, oh, he looks a bit weird. I'm not going to vote for him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, it's so slack. Like, the guy has alopecia, man. Like,
What is alopecia?
the Jada Pinkett Smith, that's
The hair.
the hair. So look, he does no eyebrows. Because, again, like, if he could grow some stubble, he could look like a Josh Frydenberg type.
Sorry to interrupt. A little bit rude of me. Just a reminder to pause the video right now, hit the follow button if you haven't already, give us a rating, and then enjoy the rest of the podcast.
Anyway, that's the Liberal Party. A lot of soul searching. We move on to Labor. I'm going to move through Labor pretty quickly. They won.
Yeah.
Good on them.
Winners.
Yay.
Yeah.
Yay or nay. Sorry, we're non-political here. We're just...
Crazy. That's
We're non-partisan because we keep it close to us.
Yeah.
No. So they expected 77 seats. They're going to probably clear 90 quite comfortably. So huge win. Six weeks ago, they were $6 to form a majority government. So that's to get to 76 seats. They were $6. Yeah, this is how much it changed in the last 6 weeks. Dutton,
Isn't that crazy?
Dutton was firm favourite even in January.
Yeah, because I'm like, when you were just talking about Dutton, I was thinking like, yeah, they did win The Voice. Like, where did it?
That joke happened a lot throughout 2023.
This is the voice.
Well, where to for him now? Like Masked Singer, is that where he is? Okay, this is also, I feel really bad for Pete Dutton because usually ex-politicians like John Howard's or whatever, they get to come back and they get to have their say on an election night and they're pretty well respected because they've done it before.
Oh, yeah.
For Peter Dutton, he can't. Because he just goes back. If he says, well, I think they lost because of that reason, they go, oh, you, the guy that had the worst ever defeat.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
what was saying before? Yeah, the Dutton, Liberals were in the ascendancy.
Sort of the flavor was lying with them. Favor as well. But yeah, obviously the actual election campaign proves to be important.
Yeah, totally. And like whether or not
when push comes to shove.
whether or not the pulse was miscalculated before, or whether or not people were genuinely swayed in the last 6 weeks or so, we'll never know.
Yeah.
So even before, like on election day, it was paying $7 for above 85 seats. They get a clear 90.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So this is seismic. Hughes was $1.08 to go to the Liberal Party.
My days.
Labor won it
Yeah.
comfortably.
Okay.
It is insane. Cook, I don't know if you might have accidentally voted for the wrong Simon compared to the one you were hoping to vote for.
Simon, yeah.
I won't lie. I actually had to do a little scribble.
Oh no.
Oh, donkey vote for Jake.
No.
That one's not coming through.
Yeah. No, that's okay though. Just like, oh, can I have another one, please?
I get Cook. People who were staffing the Cook booths deserve a pay rise that day. That would have happened a lot of like, oh, not that Simon. It's two bald guys called Simon. That like, come on.
Yeah.
Which again, people talk about the swing.
And I've just been like blasted with Simon, the Liberal candidate Simon just ads and as well. So
Talking about petrol prices and e-bikes on the Facebook ads.
yeah,
Saw a lot of those.
posters, ads. So yeah, it would be, you just like see there's that sort of name association. It's like he's standing up for community.
Yeah.
So there was a strong swing towards Cook. I think we're talking like 5-6%, and
Towards Labor.
towards Labor.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, obviously Kennedy still held it, but
Yeah.
it's looking vulnerable next time. How much can Labor take credit for it versus how much were people just getting confused about which side?
What was the Al Gore thing with the like very hard to interpret?
the pregnant chads and the like, yeah, basically they made like a butterfly chad where you had to like
it
it
wasn't
wasn't horizontally aligned.
Yeah, that's I think what's happened, but instead it's two bald guys called Simon who are both family men that grew up in the community.
Man, incredible. So the Labor picked up 54.5% at least. That's what it is right now as we're recording this, on the two-party preferred vote. So that is better than any of the Hawke-Keating governments. It's actually the best since John Curtin in 1943. And again, his stock was pretty high because he was standing up to Japan in World War II. That being said, the primary vote for Labor was much lower than that because minor parties weren't anywhere near as powerful. But compared to the Liberals, and again, their primary vote was still quite strong. Like, you've got to remember, they beat the Liberal Party quite comfortably on the primary vote. Not just the Liberal Party, the whole coalition. So they beat two parties that work together in. So very good there. Why did they win? A couple of reasons you could speculate on here. One, I've heard, well, they actually just weren't that woke, was what I've heard from people before. Nuclear scared people when Dutton was saying go nuclear. They very much did run a Medi-Scare campaign. That is just objectively true. And I think cost of living, Jim Chalmers managed to, he didn't deliver the interest rate cut, the Reserve Bank did, but his treasury could take credit for an interest rate cut right before the election, which means that consumer activity is up and confidence is growing in the economy. Anyway, the other final one for Labor was the podcast selection that Albo went on. So I'm pretty sure if I didn't mishear this, and this is just pure hearsay, the Batuta Advocate might have given Albo some counsel on what podcast to go on.
Yeah, surely there would have been some advisory to what podcast to go on.
What podcast would you go on?
If I was,
Because you don't want because you want to appeal to apolitical. You don't want to go on all the political podcasts.
yeah. So he went sports podcasts.
Yeah.
Did he go on the Grade Cricketer?
He did.
Yeah, is that the one you're referring
the
to?
winter equivalent, or did he actually go on the main?
No. So he was like, yeah, they've started like a new one, and
Maybe
it's my fave podcast, to be honest.
Call her daddy.
I was gonna.
Could be the move. Talk to her.
He would have gone on Carl and Jackie O for sure.
Yeah.
Just on the radio. Yeah. So I imagine he would have done a radio circuit. Fitz in Whipper. There was
there one
another.
we're
I
missing?
definitely saw a
Abby
clip of a
Chatfield?
podcast.
He went on Abby Chatfield?
Abby Chatfield.
Yeah.
That's the one. Yeah. Okay.
She actually had a bit of she had a rough night on election night. We'll come to the Greens very soon, but she posted some. Remember those like Trump won't win compilations, and you watch watch Democrats melt down on the 2016 election night. It was a huge thing.
There's that one clip.
Yeah.
That girl, right? That's like just like looking up at the heavens. Just I feel like you'd know.
Oh yeah, no. That was from inauguration day, I think.
Was it?
But
Yeah.
Yeah. This is on election night. Like Young Turks have like listeners will largely know this guy called Cenk Uygur, who's the main guy from the Young Turks. He walks in really confident, like it's going well, and then he melts down. Like if we did a reaction, look, you'd probably think maybe I might hide my genuine reaction if I'm really disappointed, so that I don't become a meme for 8 years. But he did not have that. He was like, "You suck, Republicans! You suck!" And he said it with just as much venom, if not more venom. Anyway,
It was definitely a clever strategy. It seems.
Mark Burris.
I've listened to a few episodes of that. Yeah, he's a funny guy. What's his one called? It's like hard talk. No,
I don't know.
What's it called?
I haven't listened to Mark Burris's podcast. Aussie Man Reviews. He was on.
Nice.
They did it at a pub, and Albo told him how to properly sink a beer. So I was like,
Oh, that's fair income.
the Daily.
Straight talk.
I remember
It's
seeing
called Straight
Aussie
Talk.
Man Reviews one. I remember seeing that come up and go, oh, blimey, look at you go.
He went on the Daily.
I'm not familiar.
The podcast.
The Daily Oz. Is that what that?
Yeah, they got a podcast. Lisa Wilkinson's daughter
Yeah, right.
And Angus Taylor went on that one as well.
Yeah.
And Angus Taylor, like, full on patronized. Like, look, I'm not going to be a huge proponent of Lisa Wilkinson, a line news outlet, but her daughter was presenting. And maybe if you're going to go on someone's podcast, you just don't be a dick as a general rule of thumb. When she started pushing back against what he was talking about the economy, he got really patronized. He was like, he didn't say, listen here, Missy, but he had like this, like, I'm the older statesman, you're the young rookie. He very much had that tone. It just came across really poor on the podcast.
Yeah.
So, very good night for Labor. I think if I want to give one bit of props of good political thinking, I did watch the ABC coverage, mainly for Jim Chalmers.
In terms of like likability, like by doing that, he's not really talking about policy that much. He's just making himself likable.
Exactly. You don't go on there to like, you go on to go like, see, this is how normal a person I am.
Yeah. And for
I like the Rabbitohs.
Yeah, I only listened to the grade cricketer one, and sure that they did ask some, I guess, questions about policy, I guess, but really the most of it was about what do you like about cricket? What do you like about sport? Tell us about the Rabbitohs. And when people are like not really sure to go into detail, they're gonna favor that guy. Than the one who isn't.
So, who's in our target range for the next election? Who can we feasibly? I genuinely reckon local member for Hughes, we've got a shot of being like, it would be good political exposure for him, considering
On the podcast.
we now know his name. Anyway, so that's enough.
Oh yeah, no, go on.
Pumping ourselves up there and patting ourselves on the back. The thing I'll give Jim Chalmers credit for, I really like Jim Chalmers. I would quite like him to be the next Prime Minister after Albanese. He just feels very safe. But I think he's a disciple of Paul Keating, but he's like, if Paul Keating learnt manners, is my general take. On the night, as it's all going down, is Peter Dutton gives his concession speech. Very gracious concession speech. And they move off topic. Jim Chalmers does a kill two birds with one stone approach because he can take down Angus Taylor here as well. So he goes, actually, I just want to bring it back. This is probably rare for a Labor person to do. I want to go back just to how good Peter Dutton's speech was. We're obviously political opponents, class act, class man, and I would really hate it if people walked away thinking that he is solely responsible for all of this. That would be so unfair to him. Angus Taylor needs to look at himself too.
That is class.
Cold.
It's like, it's such a clutch play. He is, I had the betting odds. I kid you not. I had next Liberal leader up, and they're updating it like every 5 minutes. Yeah. Angus Taylor went from favourite to third.
Wow.
In that play.
Yeah, that could happen.
Completely tanked Taylor's credibility for all the ABC watchers, which, anyway. So, really good night for Labor, really poor night for the Liberals. The one bit of solace for each party, the Greens are taking the credit for Liberal losing, Liberals are taking the credit for Greens losing. So, do you know how many seats the Greens held in the Senate before this election? Oh, no, sorry, the lower house before this election?
No.
Handful.
Yeah. They've got like 10 or so in the Senate.
Yeah, Senate's way stronger, yeah. They had 4 in the lower house, which for Greens, that's huge. Yeah. That's really good.
I saw that as of now they don't have any, right?
Oh, I think they still might have one. Elizabeth Watson-Brown, I think, will still hold on to Ryan.
One Newtown.
No, Newtown. Again, we spoke about. Yeah, you'd think like the Greens do. The Greens are second to Labor. They obviously Liberal don't get in the fight that strongly, but Tanya Plibersek's got Newtown on lock because it's got surrounding places
sure,
as well.
Is that still in that electorate?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So, Sydney.
I saw that Adam Bant, like either yesterday or today or something.
He hasn't conceded yet.
Yeah,
but it's looking pretty grim for him. So they came in with 4 seats.
What's the one seat they have
right now? Ryan is the one they're probably holding on to.
Where's that?
Queensland, Brisbane. Three of them were Brisbane.
Okay.
One was Melbourne. And so Adam Bant was Melbourne, and then there were 3 others in Brisbane. We were confident that one would go, and they might pick up one. They didn't expect to lose anywhere near as much as what they've lost. So Max Chandler Mather, I don't know if you've heard of that guy before. Do you remember the Housing Affordability Future Fund?
No.
Long story short, government basically hires hedge fund managers. They invest a fund that the government gives them, and the view is that it grows over time, and they withdraw $500 million a year to build social and affordable housing. Max Chandler Mather was like, why don't you just directly build it? That was his argument. The Labor was like, well, we are doing direct house building, but we also want to make sure we can keep this so that if the Liberals get in, they can't just gut it, because a fund, you can only use it for the terms of the person who set up the fund. And so Max Chandler Mather kind of went off at Albo. They sparred in the Parliament a lot. And there's it's called, what is it? Staying to Last. I can't remember what it is. It's the Greens. They call themselves the Green Unofficial Podcast. They did a stand-up comedy show, like a live show, which we're getting there. And they had Max Chandler Mather with him, and the guy called Albo a dumb C word, and Max Chandler Mather did nothing. And he was like, he kind of laughed along with it. And so that, a lot of blowback for that. Anyway, he lost his seat to Labor. We saw that Stephen Bates lost Brisbane to Labor as well. Adam Bent, who is the leader of the Greens, he looks pretty well set to lose Melbourne, which means they might only have one left. Their Senate seat's fine, because their vote share was the same, but just not in the seats where they needed them. Do you see Adam Bent's toothbrush at all in the build-up to the election?
No.
So you've both watched The American Office, right?
No.
Yeah, I've seen it.
There's a scene where Michael's asking for ideas, and Andy suggests something. He's like, why don't we do like an ad, something that has zing and pep? He's like, I like it. And then Jim goes, why don't we do something that has even more zing and even more pep? Even better idea. That's how I felt about the Greens. So Medicare is like a Labor Titanic achievement policy. We literally don't have the dentists to have free dental. We actually can't.
Sure.
The Australian Dental Association has said it would be good if we're going to do free dental, start it with vulnerable groups of people like elderly people or dependent children. We actually don't have enough dentists to service the demand of everyone coming in.
I see.
Interesting.
Yeah, it checks out.
Didn't stop the campaign though, of just like, so Adam Bent got this like mega toothbrush and was like waving it around, being like, Labor's not good enough, we need free dental. And that, it kind of felt like even more zing, even more pep. And so he actually looks pretty set to lose to Sarah Whitty and to lose Melbourne. Crazy. So they've been reduced to either 0 or 1 people in the one person in the lower house.
So it's really this kind of just this movement towards the center, right? Because you have the party on the right and the party on the left both kind of crashing out, or the party further right than the others.
Yeah, so which is a good segue, because the Teals are now dragging the Liberal Party, as they claim, they're trying to drag the Liberal Party to the centre, and Labor's trying to stop a Greens insurrection on the left. I mean, Adam Bent's kind of lashed out since, and he said, well, if we didn't get lower house, we're like, so other minority parties kind of lost a little bit of their power share in the Senate. So the only way that Labor gets a bill passed is they go to the Liberals or they go to the Greens. Whereas before they could have gone to other crossbenchers, other people on the crossbench. So the Greens, like, we're going to make this the most progressive parliament of all time.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so you're basically saying the Senate is less democratic than the lower house, and you're basically saying you're going to hold the lower house hostage. Do you reckon that will improve your vote share? Really? So I don't know what they're going to do, but that's what Adam Bent has been saying. Anyway, the Teals. Poor Zoe Daniel. Well, she celebrated too early by the looks of it. Couple of others that, like, do you know any of the Teals' names?
Zali.
Yeah.
Zali Stegel.
Yeah, very good.
No, she's the only one I know.
And for me, I'm like, I know she was like, wasn't she like a Winter Olympian or something?
I'm willing to believe that.
But I just think of Steggles chicken is how that sticks in my brain more. So
for sure.
I was watching an interview with one of the Teals. This was from the Liberal Party Facebook page, so take it with a grain of salt. But I did agree with the overall outcome. Do you know who backs the Teals?
No.
This guy called Simon Holmes at court.
Got that.
He has an organisation called Climate 200. He's basically a pro-climate change action maybe he's a billionaire, very rich guy, and he throws money at these Teals to try and take them off the Liberal Party, and it's like purely political campaign.
Okay.
They say they're independent, and the accusation is coming forward from both Liberal and Labor. They're going, can you call yourselves a party because it's what we think you are? So Labor, you can't disagree with Labor on anything. Like, you can behind closed doors, but in Parliament, you've got to vote as a bloc or you get expelled.
Yeah.
Liberal, you can only cross the floor or vote against them on what's called a conscience vote, like take like abortion or something like that, that's known to be a divisive issue. For the Teal independents, there's no rules requiring them to all vote in a unanimous direction, but they're all backed by the same person. And they all have the same color now, pretty much.
Yeah.
And so tactically, some of them tried to try a new color so that they could like throw. Anyway, one of them got asked, "Are you a party?" And she clearly doesn't have enough political experience to know how to dodge a question. She had to go, they go, "Are the Teals a party?" It's like, we do love to party. No, we're going to circle back to that one and say, they've done I wouldn't say very. They've actually done pretty much the same as what they were before. They've made gains and lost in some areas.
Okay. Who was the Teal that said the thing to the hairdresser?
Yeah, that was the same one. Nicolette Bueller.
Nicolette, that's right.
Or how do you say her name?
Cigarette.
Yeah. So that was very good, very good. I have not thought of that company in a long, long time. So Kate Cheney won Curtin, Allegra Spender won Wentworth, Sophie Scoms won McKellar, Zali Stegel won Warringah with a 61%. Was so huge for her. And then Helen Haynes, who's like Teals affiliated, won Indy. Monique Ryan looks a little bit up in the air right now. So she's got Kooyong. That was Josh Frydenberg's old one.
Yeah, because she took that off Frydenberg in the last election.
Correct.
Yeah,
And
that was the big one. That was the Dutton seat of that election.
Yeah, exactly, because Frydenberg could have been possibly the leader, if not, which opened the way for Dutton. So Monique Ryan, it's still up in the air. I think she'll be fine. They have a candidate called Amelia Hamer. She has spoken about how hard it is as a renter. The bit that she leaves out is that she owns 2 investment properties and is just renting the house she lives in. So that didn't work in her favour and stuff like that. And the Liberal Party's definitely gone, well, we need to run a woman in that seat anyway because it's a Teal battle. So Teals have ended up at a pretty similar point. They can't hold the government to ransom, which was looking like if they had a minority government, they possibly could. And so that just leaves the Senate if you want to learn about the other minor parties. And we'll go through these very quickly. Did you get excited when you heard of Trumpet of Patriots?
Oh, mate, they've been blowing up my phone the last couple of weeks. I've been getting DMs from them.
Did you get messages?
Yeah, I got one, but I got it after I'd already voted.
I felt a bit left out. I'm like, where's my message?
Most people seem to have, I don't know how I've ended up on there. I swear, I have no idea how I've ended up on there.
Yeah, well, who's he bought the data from? Is like, so anyway, you need about 14.3% of a state to get a Senate seat. That's roughly what it needs to be. So 14.3%, it doesn't necessarily matter what order to put you above the line. So the winners, One Nation gained a 1.3% swing their way. Pauline Hanson's daughter might be in it as well.
Wow.
Lee Hanson. It's a contest in Tasmania between her and Jackie Lambie for that final.
Oh, wow.
I know. Jackie Lambie, if I'm not mistaken, put herself second on the Senate seat, which I think was a bit of a play of, if you really want Jackie Lambie, you got to vote for us so much that you get. So like number one gets first after the 14.3% threshold's reached, they get theirs. So I think it was a play of like, they love Jackie Lambie in Tasmania. If I put myself second, they're going to have to work to get Jackie Lambie.
Yeah.
Legalized cannabis gained 1.1%.
Okay.
And People First, which I have no idea what their policy platform is, gained 0.4%.
Okay. The people are listening.
People First. Again, we spoke.
We could look at that up.
Yeah, we spoke last week about the possibility of running a candidate with no substance and just saying, maybe we have a party that we can now start putting some seed money into.
The good guys.
The good guys. Just go and just be like, I hate it when politicians lie to you.
Yeah. Anti-politics party. Yeah. How did David Pocock go?
Very well.
Good on him.
Is he just rugby background? Is that why you're asking?
Yeah.
Yeah, nah.
I think his is called like the David Pocock party, right?
Oh yeah, he's so popular in the ACT.
So, like, that's just fun. That's just a bit different.
Yeah, I have grievances, but for another day.
Yeah, no doubt.
What about the guy from, is Peter Garrett still around?
Oh, I wish. No, he's retired.
Yeah, okay.
My father-in-law loves Peter Garrett, the musician.
Yeah.
And I got asked what I think of Peter Garrett. I'm like, look, I'm going to have to really embarrass my father-in-law here, but I really didn't mind Peter Garrett, the politician, but not really into Peter Garrett, the musician.
Really?
I just don't. I'm ambivalent towards Midnight Oil.
How can we sleep while the beds are burning?
Anyway, the losers. So Greens neutral. They're going to always stay at a pretty similar point. They've stabilised for a little while now. Trump to Patriots didn't do well. They picked up 1.9% of the vote, so way short of getting a Senate seat. And last time the UAP picked up 4.1% of the vote.
Yeah.
Ralph Babbitt is still there from the last. You know how only half the Senate gets replaced at a time.
Yeah.
So he's still there from last time, and he's United Australia Party. I've watched so much coverage since, it's probably not very healthy. Do you know Avi Yemeni?
Yep.
So I watched his live stream, and he had Ralph Babette on, and Avi Yemeni's going, bro, Palmer's wasted his money. You've got nothing. And Ralph Babette more or less goes, it's about the journey, not the destination. So what we did was create a movement. We created a movement. People are talking about Trumpet of Patriots. And Avi Yemeni's like, not very positively though.
Yeah.
Basically we've inspired people. So not good night for them. The Libertarians, they used to be called the Liberal Democrats.
Yeah.
1.2% swing against them.
Interesting.
Fun fact for you, Neil Kahakar's dad ran in that party.
Okay.
Interesting.
I watched his podcast as well. He interviewed Craig Kelly. He was recording from and I say this as a huge Neil Kahagar fan. I don't mean this to be disparaging. He was recording from, it's his dad. He's literally not the same person. He was recording from his laptop, doing a Zoom recording using the computer microphone in the kitchen. He had backlight coming behind him, and it starts with, "Welcome to the studio." And I'm like, I'm really into people over the age of 60 doing podcasts, and you don't welcome to the physical place where you're.
No, I like it. He can own it.
I like it. Victorian Socialists and the Socialist Alliance made no gains. The Victorian Socialists, I can't remember which socialist it was. Have you heard of Purple Pingers?
No.
He's a guy that's blown up on like new media, TikTok, Instagram, whatever. He's
Such an old head calling that new media.
I just couldn't bring myself to be like, he's like really big on TikTok. Like, you should just watch his TikTok. Nah, he got famous for squatting in people's houses.
Okay.
His argument was that there's a huge vacancy crisis when people need shelter, so he just encouraged people to go squat.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so he ran for the Victorian Socialists, and didn't get in. And so after 2022, Dutton was elected unopposed, but this time he was already elected, but it won't be decided for the Liberals until next week because there's still seats that matter. Dutton set a 6-year timeline for us to be back in office.
Okay.
So he wasn't even, this election cycle was seen as a free hit, like bonus, we just need to make gains.
Well, that hasn't happened.
Yes, that timeline has been reset by all accounts, another 6 years. People are speculating that we could see a 4-term Labor government. It's a lot to speculate on. So people are thinking Albo's got next one down as a lock, and then 2031 will be contestable, and then 2034 he'll probably lose because it'll be stale. I want to finish by saying this. I haven't decided yet on the title, but I want to finish with this closing thought. Do you think the Liberal Party is done as their current format?
No, I think they'll be back. I think there's a post-credit scene happening somewhere where some new hotshot is going to come and change things. They've probably got some thinking to do as to what the appetite is these days for their sort of policies. But talk to me, Jake.
Comes and goes in waves.
Thanks.
And I think we've learned that the Australian voter is volatile.
Yeah, that's actually, you're right.
And as they should be, to be honest. I hate the
sure,
I hate the term swing voter because I think we should all swing vote, right?
Mm-hmm. Swing.
Yeah. Good to be volatile. Keep changing your mind. Keep politicians on edge.
Keep the bastards honest.
Yeah, good idea. Yeah, don't take everything on its merits.
Right, look at this. Just the voice of reason here.
I also don't think they're done, and I would advise against the podcast.
Post the death of the Liberal Party.
The podcast base. The podcast base is very Labor inclined. This is going out to you guys. No, they're not. I maybe with their current brand, so maybe they do a merger with the Teals and find a new name. Robert Menzies rebranded it from the United Australia Party to the Liberal Party.
Yep.
We could say the Merit Party or something like that. But a couple of key things that I think really need to ram home the point that don't count your chickens too early. One, under Bob Hawke and Paul Keating, it looked like Labor would be in forever. Liberals constantly changed their opposition leader. It went from Peacock to Howard to back to Peacock to John Hewson to Alexander Downer to John Howard again. it took them a long time, and then they had a 4-term run in office. In 2004, John Howard won the Senate and beat Mark Latham in a strong election. People said Liberal's going to be in forever. He loses the next one to Kevin Rudd. Kevin Rudd gets in. The Liberal Party's really struggling with Brendan Nelson as its leader, with John Howard gone. People go, the Liberal Party's done. Kevin Rudd doesn't even last till the next election. I'm trying to think, countless other times this happened throughout history. Even last time. So when Albo won the last election, people were saying the Liberal Party's done in their current iteration. And yes, I know it's easy to say after the fact because the Liberal Party did lose really badly, but what we forget is what I said before, that up until 6 weeks ago, the Liberal Party were in a position where they could have won this election, by the looks of it, if we were to trust the polling data. And so people were saying, Liberal Party's done, Liberal Party's done, the voice comes along, oh, conservatism's cool again. That lasts like 6 weeks until Trump blows that one. It could be in any different name. We got to remember the Liberal Party represents the capital class in society, so people who own who own businesses, and people who own people whose payment comes from dividends in businesses more so than it does a wage that they're dependent upon. They got a lot of money sitting in the bank accounts. They're going to be fine. They're going to find another way forward. Money can get you pretty far in a lot of things in life. What I would say is that what the Liberal Party needs is they need to humble themselves. Again, listen to the 27-year-old. But Menzies' biggest thing was like, okay, we're going to cobble together and we're going to form a coalition of different business interests, because together, if we do not get organised, Ben Chifley is just going to run us into the ground. So we might not get on this. Like farming interests often run completely diametrically to metropolitan interests, but we need to form a coalition together and have a strong business party in order to see off the Ben Chifley threat. And there's an element of humble your ego, leave it at the table. Your business interests are at stake here. But there's just none of that. Like Clive Palmer ran an ego exercise, the Trump and Patriots campaign. The Climate 200 are trying to push the Liberal Party in their direction. You've got the old school Liberal Party. It's going to require a bit of sacrificing your personal brand and your personal flavour of Liberal Party that you want to form a coalition together that can rival the Labor Party, because they're all unified on the fact that they get their funding from workers and funding from unions. And so I don't think they're done. I'm glad to hear you don't think they're done either. Just watch the space. But a very, very interesting election. I think Anthony Green called it the most surprising election of his life.
Wow, what a one to go out on for Anthony.
I'll finish with this actually. Poor guy. It was his last election that he's doing, and the board wasn't working.
No.
Yeah, for like a good hour and a half. So I had to use was watching ABC, but I had to have Channel 9 for the results on my phone because the ABC's data just wasn't working. And so they literally asked him, like, Anthony, we're going to you. He's like, gets a bit of paper out and has to talk off a bit of paper. So I think he's got to come back for one more.
Yeah, sure. You can't let him leave like that. Damn.
So there I have it. Watch the Liberal Party. Keep an eye on them. And I think Albo will, by the looks of it, Jim Chalmers was asked directly if he would want to rival Albanese for leadership. And he said, I expect Albanese to completely serve this full term, and I want him to serve this full term. So he just flat off the bat denied it. So it looks like Albo might get a full term in.
Can they learn from their mistakes?
Yes, and not have a Rudd Gillard or a Hawke Keating scenario, and have a peaceful transition of power to Jim Chalmers. And he made a very clutch play. So,
Yeah, Jim.
we've got some new gear. If we sound a little bit funny, that's why. And
Hope we sound better than usual.
yeah, we'll see.
It's a sky high right now. We got all sorts. We got this cool soundboard it's all happening.
We love you guys.
So you might have missed it, but over the weekend, the UK also had a bunch of local elections, and this video right here will get you completely up to speed with what has happened in UK politics since 2010. I guarantee you 90 minutes of your time, you will be an expert in UK politics.